Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Deepa Robbins from DeeZinesByD and I have another Make the Cards Challenge post for you. So this one is going to be featuring some ink spray backgrounds and some foiling on acetate. So I've been really having fun with acetate lately and I've been looking for faster ways to make Christmas cards. And one fast way is alcohol inks. Another fast way is to use these ink sprays. So I'm going to be using Distress Ink Sprays by Tim Holtz. Don't get confused. I'm using the stains, not the oxide inks. But you could use oxide inks if you wanted to. They just behave a little differently, which I'll explain a bit later. So this week's Make the Cards challenge is a theme challenge, and the theme for this week is winter. So with Christmas around the corner, we want to see some beautiful winter scenes. So don't forget to check out the blog and link up your projects to have a chance to win for this week. So I'm showing you all of these distress spray stains that I'm going to be using: Villainous Potion, Prize Ribbon, Tumbled Glass, Chip Sapphire, Blueprint Sketch, and then I also have the Brushed Pewter, which is a mica spray. So it's a little different. One thing I do recommend is having a box. So I have this shoe box, which was a small little shoe box for my child's boots that I got this year. And I'm just taking my panel. This is actually a larger panel. It's just half of an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of cardstock. And I make it bigger and then I cut it down to size. It just makes it so much easier to make sure that you've covered everything and that you have enough to use for your projects. So I've got it in my box here. And first I'm going to use some Prize Ribbon. Now you can see this absorbs right into the paper. So that is the biggest property of these distress stains. It's going to absorb into the paper. You can build some layers, but like you see, I'm leaving some white areas so that all of these different colors will show. And because it's a dye stain, the colors are going to mix together and form their own colors once layered upon each other. So just by changing the different colors that you use, you can make different backgrounds, even if you say you're using the same types of blues, like what I'm doing here. I'm making two backgrounds. One of them's going to be darker, one of them's going to be like a lighter snowier color. So I would say one's night and one's day. And I'm also going to be adding a nice snowy little background with some white acrylic paint. So I'm just adding a little bit to an acrylic block. And this little bottle has just water. It's just water in there. I'm just watering it down a little so that it becomes a bit less viscous. And then I can just drop it onto my cardstock like I'm doing here. So I find that the tapping the brush method, like I'm doing here, it gets you a lot more finer drops, I would say. And then you could also use like the flicking method on the acrylic block. It's a little less controlled, but it gives you a different result. So go ahead and play around with it and find what works for you. So now I'm going to explain to you the oxide inks. So I don't have the oxide ink sprays, but you can use those, and those are a little different. They are not going to mix in color as much because they basically have that pigment nature to them. So they will sit on the cardstock more rather than be absorbed like this one. And you can build a lot more layers with oxide inks if you wanted to. I personally find that the oxide inks have a bit more of an opaque nature to them. And the stains have more of like a vibrant, deep color to them. So I chose the stains because I wanted that vibrant, deep color. I mean, they both have their own different properties. It's really just what you want and what you're looking for in your backgrounds. So that really determines which ones you want to use. So you could use either, like I said, and you can get two different looks. You could try both together, see how it works together. I don't know, just experiment and have some fun. Maybe I'll try that next time, actually. I didn't even think of that. So anyways, as you can see, I'm doing that flicking method for this one, and I'm getting a lot more little droplets. I find that the tapping method gets you bigger droplets. So you can see that I have this nice background. It actually would make a nice galaxy background. And then I have the lighter color, and you just basically have like touches of that pewter mica spray in the background. As you tilt the cardstock, you can see the shine. So next, I'm going to show you this Spellbinders Elegant Holiday Glimmer Sentiments set. I'm going to be using that to do some foiling on acetate. Important. Make sure you have heat-resistant acetate. If it is not heat resistant, it is going to melt on your glimmer machine, and you don't want that mess. So the biggest point I can make about this is make sure your acetate is heat resistant. So now I'm going to put my glimmer plate onto that acetate, and I'm just cutting the foil by hand. For smaller images like this, I don't really use the quick trimmer. You'll see in some of my videos I do use it, but usually for like larger pieces I'll use that. This, I mean, it's just a kind of a bit of a waste of time. I can just cut it in 2 seconds. Okay, so here's my method. I'm basically letting the Glimmer machine heat up. Once it's heated up, I will add the foil and the acetate. I'll wait till that indicator stops blinking, and then I add the spacer pad and the shim, and then I'll put it through my machine. And this tends to give me the best results. You can see you have this beautifully foiled acetate, and that foil is actually prism, so it looks really nice. Now for the second piece, I'm going to be using a different sentiment from the same set, and I'll be using some Spellbinders cobalt foil, cobalt blue. And I'm going to foil it in the exact same manner as I did before. Now, some people, they will put the spacer pad and the shim on top of their foil and whatever medium they're using, acetate, cardstock. And I find that that might make the acetate a bit too hot. So that's why I add it after the timer has finished. Now I'm just showing you here that this is how I store all my plates. I add like a little magnetic sheet, and then it just makes it so much easier for them to stick on there and grab them and stick them back in the pockets when I'm done. Now here's another little nifty hint. I have my Tonic Tim Holtz guillotine cutter, and I make bigger cards. So you see the ruler only goes up to 6. So what I do is I kind of measure 6.75 and then 7 inches so that I can make my 5-inch by 7-inch cards. If I want it to have an 1/8 of an inch border, I cut it at 6.75, and if I want it to be full, I cut it at 7. So that's a little tip you can use for your rulers or your guides if you don't have them the size you like them. Now I'm using the Spellbinders Tipple Tier dies, and I just used the plain circle there to cut out the acetate. Now the main thing I want to note with that is to put your acetate between pieces of cardstock or printer paper as you cut it, because if you have worn out plates, they're going to interfere and kind of roughen up the look of your acetate, and you don't want that. Moving on, I'm using the Lawn Fawn stitched Hillside Borders to create these little hilly looking pieces, and I use some Sizzix Opulent Ivory Glitter cardstock to do that because it has this really nice shine that looks exactly like glistening snow, and I love that look. So the next thing I'm going to do is cut out all of these little house or village dies that I've got here. This is a set that I got from Amazon, and I'm just using my little Sizzix die cutting machine to do that. I cut them both out of some plain white cardstock and also out of some Sizzix Opulent Silver Mirror cardstock. Now I've got these Sizzix Tim Holtz snowflake dies. I love this set because it just has so many different little snowflakes in various different sizes. And I'm just putting them all over this piece of mirror cardstock here, and I can run them through this small little machine in just one go, and I get a bunch of snowflakes. So I did this from the silver mirror cardstock, and I also did it from some shimmer vellum because I'm going to be kind of layering these onto my card. Now I have this Artist Tack dry adhesive. So I've shown this before. It's really cool. It turns all your little die cuts into stickers. You basically open up this sheet. It's 2 pieces of paper here, and it's got adhesive in the center. You stick your die cuts onto the adhesive in the center, press it down, and then when you pull it off, it's got the adhesive on the back there. So this makes it much easier for me to kind of get the stickiness on the back there, line it up with the little silver shadow that I'm making in the background, and then you just burnish it down there with a bone folder, anything a little bit straight and hard. You could even use a ruler. And once I'm done, I've got these beautiful little houses with that glistening silver shadow. So now I will take my backgrounds, and I've actually cut them down to size. I will add the hilly borders or those glistening peaks of snow there. So the back hill I put flat on the paper with some glue, and the top hill I use some foam squares. And you can see I've already stuck down that circle acetate foiled sentiment in the center. Now I just used 2 little small foam squares on the edges of the circle to push that down. And it will show through, but it's not going to be a big deal because that's why I cut out all of those snowflakes. We're going to use that to cover up that adhesive, those foam squares underneath the acetate. So Before I do that, I'm adding all of my little winter village houses here. And I'm just kind of positioning some behind, some in front. And that's why I put that front mound of snow on some foam tape. So I could create a bit of dimension, a bit of depth perspective to kind of have some houses further in the front and have some houses further back. It just gives you more of a realistic type look. Now there's a couple mounds of snow that also come with this die set, so I use that and put that around the little edges of the house in the front just to make it a little more indicative of what the streets look like during Christmas, with big mounds of snow plowed to the sides. And then I'm just adding my layers of snowflakes, particularly to cover up those 2 foam squares. So that's why you kind of have to plan that out. Make sure you put those foam squares in areas where you can put snowflakes or something, some embellishment over top of it to cover it up. So I'm going to do the exact same thing with the second panel. I've added the 2 hills of snow there. And again, I'm adding that acetate, which looks so nice on that background. Honestly, I would have never even thought of using foil on acetate, but I saw this cute little video from Spellbinders and I was like, oh my God, I have to do this. I have to try the foil on acetate. And once you do it, you will be hooked, I guarantee you. Especially for little sentiments like this, where you don't want to cover up your background. You want it to show through. This works perfectly. So again, I've put all my little houses there, a few little snow mounds, and now I'm adding the snowflakes to cover up those foam squares. And I'm always adding my snowflakes in groups of 3 or uneven numbers. Don't know if you're familiar with it, but in art in general, you tend to want to put things down in uneven numbers because it's just a little bit more aesthetically pleasing to the eye. Sometimes I don't always follow this rule. I mean, it's up to you what you want to do. That's just one of the rules out there. You don't have to follow it. I do the same things with my little gems here, although I didn't follow it. On the little houses, I put the tinier little gems in little groupings of 2, just to like in the little corners, because it just adds a little bit of interest and draws your eye to those little houses. So now for the insides of my cards, I have my card bases cut out. And I'm using these 2 sets, Avery L Snowflakes and Simon Says Stamp Joy for You. I'm going to be using the snowflakes pretty much, and I think one of the sentiments from the Simon Says Stamp set. So I've arranged all of those snowflakes on the left side of my card base for the inside of the card. And I'm going to be using some Salvage Patina and Tumbled Glass Oxide Inks. And I'm just going to kind of create like a 2-tone on these snowflakes that gradually kind of blend into each other. That's why I used that blending tool. You don't have to do that. From what I can tell, because they're oxide inks, if you just like kind of move the ink pad back and forth a little, it blends the color anyways. So that's the one panel for the lighter background card. And then for this card, which is for the deeper color, or the night card as I like to call it, I'm using Broken China and Chipped Sapphire Oxide Inks. Now, I have the spray stain, sorry, not the oxide, the spray stain for the prize ribbon, but I do not have it in the actual ink pad yet. So that's why I use the Broken China. If I had it in the ink pad, I probably would have used the prize ribbon color instead. So there's that one. Now let's do our sentiments. I've got the Alta New Blessing set. I use this for every single card I've been making. I don't think I've even used any other ones. But there's one sentiment in there, even though this is a bit more of a religious set, this one sentiment is very generic and I love it. So I've been using this one on all my cards, and these cards are no different. So I'll be using them on here using some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. Now I usually stamp the main sentiment here, and then I'll have a sub-sentiment. For this one, I'm going to be using Salvage Patina, and I'm using the Season's Greetings sentiment that comes from the Simon Says Stamp Joy for You stamp set. And then for the second card, I'll be stamping the same sentiment in the exact same position out with the Broken China Oxide ink. So this ties all of the colors, the snowflake or the wintry scene from the front, into the inside of the card. And I'm not done yet. I want to add one more little thing. So I'm going to do some heat embossing. And this is a really neat effect. You could do this on the front of the card, the inside of the card. I just think it's subtle and nice and just adds a little bit more to the inside. So I've moved my snowflakes around. It's not in the same positioning as before so that there's a bit of overlapping. And I'm stamping this down with some Versamark ink. And then I'm going to use some Ranger holographic embossing powder. This embossing powder is great because it's clear. It's clear white. So you're not really going to see it when you look at it blankly or at first, but it has these nice AB colored glitter pieces in it. And so when you move the paper back and forth, you get this nice little glisten and glow, the same type of glistening that you get from snow. And I just thought that it matched so nicely with this card and with that glitter that I have on the front of the card on the snowbanks. So I thought that that just kind of tied it all in nicely. So these are my final cards for you today. Here is my day card, or my day snow wintry background card. And I have that inside matching the front. It turned out really nice, and I have to say that acetate foiled sentiment is really my favorite part of the card. Here's the second card with the night version of the winter background. And again, the inside to match the front with those glistening little snowflakes on the inside. And that's my final card, or my final cards for you today. I hope that you've been inspired. Please, if you liked my video, give me a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell so you can be notified of any further videos that I do post. And I do encourage you to go ahead and check out my blog. All of the supplies I've used are linked there, on top of a bunch more inspiration. Not to mention, go ahead and check out the Make the Cards Challenge blog post. It is linked in my blog as well. Go ahead and check out the inspiration from the other designers and make a card for yourself. I bet you're making a card like this, something with a wintry background anyways at this point. So just go ahead and take that extra second to link it up to the blog post and you could be entered to be the winner for this week. So I hope you all have a great day and I hope that you join the challenge. I'll see you again next time. Bye.